Okay, am I interrupting anyone? I guess not. I do sincerely beg your pardon. I really wasn't looking for more attention, Laverne, okay? That's what that was about. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending this evening's board meeting. And to you, CMHA is holding its monthly board meeting virtually via webcam and teleconferencing on Tuesday, April 27, 2021, as approved through Ohio's novel coronavirus response bill, which directly affects how local governments throughout the state operate in conducting public business. These sweeping changes were originally approved Thursday, March 27, 2020, and extended until July 1st, 2021 via House Bill 404, approved November 19, 2020. This is the contemporaneous meeting for instrumentalities that do not have any new business or matters requiring deliberation. The meetings of the following instrumentalities: Laurel Homes 1, Lincoln View Incorporated, Reserve on South Martin, Southwest Ohio Housing Development Incorporated, Cary Crossing Development Corporation, West Union Square Development Corporation, Sutter View Development Corporation, Pinecrest Rad Development Corporation, Park Eden Evanston, LLC, Park Eden Apartments Development Corporation, Mariana Terrace Development Corporation, and Bennett Point Development Corporation are hereby called to order. May I have a roll call for attendance? Ms. Mitchell.
Present.
Mr. Harris.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. O'Donnell.
Present.
Mr. Moore.
Present.
And the chair is present. We have a quorum. Commissioners, have you reviewed the March 30, 2021 minutes for these instrumentalities? And if so, are there any corrections? Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. And roll call, Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The motion passes. There's no new business for these instrumentalities.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you very much. Roll call, Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The meeting is adjourned. Now, this is the regular meeting of Touchstone Property Services Incorporated for Tuesday, April 27th, 2021. The meeting is called to order. Roll call, Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Present.
Aye. Present. Present. Excuse me.
Oh, yeah, I guess I need to say present too, huh?
You know what? We're translating. You remind me of myself. Mr. Moore.
Present.
And the chair is present. We have a quorum. Item 3 is approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the
Motion to
Touchstone?
approve.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none. Roll call. Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The motion passes. Maybe I should pause here. You're all being so attentive. Can we vote to approve? Yes, we can vote. We can vote. Well, no. Parliamentary question. If we didn't attend the meeting about which we're voting to approve the minutes, should we refrain from that vote?
No.
No?
Should abstain.
Abstain? Okay. So, not sure everyone was here who voted to approve the minutes of the last 2 minutes we've voted on.
I think I missed the last meeting, so I should probably abstain.
Okay.
Was the last meeting the special board meeting?
Yes, the last meeting was a special board meeting,
Okay.
but at that meeting, we did not go over all of the instrumentalities and touchstone.
Okay.
So, but
Then I
there
should
were-
abstain too. So from the March 30th, not from the April 10th.
Right, March 30th, right.
Okay, so should we have those votes again, or
Yeah, we
should we just note? Okay, is that okay? Whoever's our parliamentarian tonight?
Well, if you have the votes again, you have to rescind your original vote.
Can we
If,
just change our votes as opposed to having it?
yes, you can change your vote. That would be easier.
So I would like
Okay.
my vote from a yes to an abstain.
Okay.
Mine as well. Mine as
And-
well.
And do they need to, for both meetings, you're abstaining? Votes on
Correct.
both meetings?
Correct.
Okay. Does that cover it, Greg?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, and Reggie needs to abstain for the meeting for April 10th.
April.
That we're not.
No, we haven't
actually
gotten to April 10th yet. We're going to get
Oh,
that in the regular meeting.
We,
That's all
You're
right.
not
I like
voting
your
on it.
instincts. Like your instincts, Reggie. Okay, so we've cleaned up that bit of bookkeeping, record keeping. So where was I?
Item 4.
Item 4, thank you. Discussion recommendations, resolution number 126, approving the financial report for the month of March 2021 with collection losses. Is there a motion to accept, please?
Motion.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, Rima, can you just give a sort of a brief update of where we are for March and the losses, how we're doing?
Okay, so in regards to the losses, the bad debt write-off for the month of March, there was only $765 for the write-off. Year to date, we are running about $16,175. That's for the 3 months ending March. Just a side note, all the Touchstone and its instrumentalities are on a calendar year basis, so therefore it's only been 3 months. And we're averaging about $5,400 a month so far for 2021. And in comparison for 2020, we were running about $10,600. So that's the bad debt summary.
And is that because of all of the CARES Act funding that's out?
Just typically, the Touchstone instrumentalities tend not to have a lot of bad debt as in comparison with Cmha. The population mix, at least on 4 or 5 of these instrumentalities, are senior buildings, and therefore we just don't see, bad debt that often with the Touchstone properties. Now, with conversions and all that in the future, as we go with RAD conversions, we may see a little bit more, but from historically, we haven't.
Thank you.
Any other questions about Touchstone's write-offs? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Moore.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Now, resolution 127, to approve the monthly financial statement for Hamilton County Affordable Housing, Springdale Senior Limited Partnership, doing business as Baldwin Grove, the Reserve on South Martin, Cary Crossing, West Union Square, Sutter View, Evanston, Pinecrest, Parking and Apartments, City West Retail, and Touchstone Property Services for the 3 months ending March 31st, 2021 for calendar year 2021.
Motion.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Questions? Hearing-
Question.
Yes, please.
Why are all those other properties listed under this Touchstone agenda? I'm just curious, as opposed to under their individual agendas.
Because we've converted those. So they're managed and operated by Touchstone now.
Okay.
So eventually we're going to have it's going to be about 99% Touchstone board meeting in the future.
Okay.
Okay. Good question, Ed.
All right.
Any other questions? Okay, roll call, Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mr. Moore.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, the resolution passes. Resolution 128, authorizing the CEO of Touchstone Property Services to negotiate and enter into a contract for solicitation TP 21-1001. Work order services with Trust Us Transportation, LLC, doing business as Trust Us Maintenance and Janitorial, Colossal Janitorial, LLC, Fancy Structure Construction, LLC, Thomas Rehabbing, LLC, A1 Quality Home Improvement and Roofing, LLC, Bruce Gray, DBA From the Ground Up Renovations, August Cleaning Services, LLC, The Stones Street Group, LLC, Finance Services, LLC, Ultimate Professionals, LLC, GLT Renovations, LLC. Somebody got to do it. It's laughing over the creative and cleverness of that. Thompson Renovations and Janitorial, LLC, Cross Street Renovation Services, LLC, Touch of Perfection Painting, LLC, BCJ Janitorial, LLC, and KNVY Renovations, LLC, in a not to exceed amount of $200,000 per contractor per year for a maximum 3-year contract or the board approved budget funded by operating funds. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Second?
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Harris. Aye. Mr. O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mr. Moore.
He said aye.
Yeah,
He said
Aye.
okay. And the chair votes aye, the resolution passes. Resolution 129, authorizing the CEO of Touchstone Property Services to negotiate and enter into a contract for solicitation TP 21-1004, junk removal services with Trust Us Transportation, LLC, DBA Trust Us Maintenance and Janitorial, a FIST of Contractors, LLC, Fancy Structure Construction, LLC, Somebody Got to Do It, LLC, Rumpke of Ohio Incorporated, Arel Lindsay, DBA Kingdom Contracting Services, the Stone Street Group, LLC, Thomas Rehabbing, LLC, A1 Quality Home Improvement and Roofing, LLC, and Diamond Professional Contractors, LLC, in a not to exceed amount of $200,000 per contractor per year for a maximum 5-year contract or the board approved budget funded by operating funds. Is there a motion to accept?
Motion.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have one question, and it's sort of a general question
Sure.
about this. Does our vetting process look closely at potential conflicts of interest among these various vendors and suppliers? I mean, in other words, I personally don't know anything about these companies, and I'm just curious if how deeply we look into them to know who they're owned by, whether there are any potential conflicts of interest or political connections that we should be aware of.
Part of the disclosures that they submit are to, this is Janelle, whether they do have conflicts of interest. We have discovered some and have disqualified some companies this year. It's been a new thing that we've discovered. There were a couple companies that did have a very apparent conflict of interest that we've disqualified.
Okay. So we look at that, but do we rely on their disclosures? I mean, I'm just
No, We discovered that one was interesting. Before it comes to the board, we double check with the Secretary of State to make sure it's a registered business to get the legal name. When we did that, we discovered one company was registered. The return address was another company's name and address. Then when we looked at the proposals, we found that they were very, very similar.
Interesting.
That's the word I use when yeah.
Okay.
So I'm a little slow, especially tonight. They were very, very similar because it's possible, without referring to any particular bid we've received, it's conceivable that somebody could, under two different names, submit bids.
Correct.
That
Proposal,
appear.
the fees were identical. The proposals were very, very similar.
Yeah.
It appeared to be a conflict.
Yeah. Ed does raise an interesting question. There was a case that was more or less finished recently that involved a contractor to the city of Cincinnati in the state of Ohio who portrayed himself as a minority contractor, and the court decided that that wasn't the case. To Ed's point, what do we do to look into that question for anyone who's receiving, what's the term for preference points, perhaps? And
Yeah, we used to give preference points. We do not do that any longer for minority or women-owned businesses. We certainly encourage them. And we're excited with the numbers that we get, but there was a question of whether giving preference points could be an issue. There is a preference for Section 3.
okay, well, that's good to know. I was ignorant of that as part of our process.
I just want to add to what you're saying, Bill, that I mean, as a board member or as board members, we have responsibility to make sure that there are no conflicts of interest. I mean, ultimately, we have the responsibility for this, and so I think other board members are relying on the staff to vet these companies, small and large, to make sure that there are no conflicts of interest or political, dealings or inside dealings, favoritism, that kind of stuff going on. So I'm encouraged to hear that you are taking a look at these closely, because I don't know any of these companies, don't know any of the people involved in them, and so we're approving them as approved vendors based on staff's.
If it's a company that we're not as familiar with, then we check the references.
Okay.
So we do that. And also, before we award contracts, we have to check that they're not on a federal or state debarred list or suspended list or anything like that. So we check multiple lists before they get their contract. And we've just had one that was suspended for a while and came off a suspension, so now they can work.
And obviously, in the RFP process, if there are any bonds required of the responders, that's part of the good order of the application vetting that occurs, as a matter of fact.
Right. Both the non-construction and construction side, we have sort of extensive checklists. Then when we get the proposals or bids in, we go through, and part of it is an organizational conflict of interest that they said they haven't had. If they've got supposed to have the bid, is it the right amount? So we go through a long checklist before we say, okay, they're responsive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's why sometimes you'll see that we say we received this many, but this many were not responsive. It's because they didn't give us something they were required to.
Mm-hmm. And when I first came on this conversation reminds me of when I first came on the board, and we saw a grid of the, we're not talking about, we would see a grid of different categories that the procurement team would rate the proposals in the course of awarding. In a case where there would be one award, one winner. And it went into things like, I might not be perfect in my recollection, but Dun and Bradstreet ratings and things such as that. Their ability to perform essentially is where those things went. So you're continuing to do all those vetting categories, correct, Janelle?
Yeah, and they also, during the evaluation, we discussed their past performance, and with the value on the non-construction side, with 3 to 5 evaluators, there's always somebody who's dealt with them if they've worked with us.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also keeping track of ratings so that we can pull those up. If somebody's had an issue that's not on the evaluation committee, we can still discuss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, one other quick question is, does conflict of interest cover favoritism or, dealing with friends, so to speak?
If they have any business or personal relationships with anybody on the board or anybody at CMHA, they're supposed to disclose that. Sometimes we find out later that they haven't disclosed, in which case they get a notice about that.
Okay. Any personal relationships with people?
Well, like if my brother was a landscape architect or something, we couldn't hire him. He would have to disclose that.
Well, what would happen is if her brother was a landscape, then she would have to preclude herself from any decisions. So it's not the housing authority couldn't hire them. It's that Janelle would have to say, hey, I can't score this one or have anything to do with the hiring of this one. We still can do business with them. And we can still do business with, if you have a friend or someone that works in a company or owner of a company, you just have to disclose and not vote on it that you have some type of potential conflict. And that's what we ask the vendors to do as well. Sometimes they fully do it. Sometimes they don't. And as Janelle said, sometimes we catch them up front, but sometimes we hire them and then catch them after the fact as well. So it's not foolproof, but it is sort of the honor system. And then Janelle has the checks that she goes through to say, okay, they checked all the boxes. I don't have any reason not to go forward.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Good questions. In the course of having a discussion like this, we certainly want to encourage everyone who's looking to do business with CMHA in the proper way to do so. And this conversation is not meant in any way to limit the aspirations of anyone who'd like to do business with us. Okay, so roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Moore.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution passes.
Motion.
The motion to adjourn. Okay, a second.
Second.
Very good. Any questions? Hearing none. Roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Moore.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Touchstone Property Services Incorporated meeting is closed. Now, We move on to the regular board meeting of the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority for Tuesday, April 27, 2021. The meeting is now called to order. Roll call for attendance. Ms. Mitchell?
Present.
Mr. Harris?
Present.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Present.
Mr. Moore?
Present.
Thank you. And the chair is present. We have a quorum. Item 3 is approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the
So moved.
annual plan hearing meeting held on March 30th, 2021?
So moved.
Thank you. And did I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any corrections to these minutes? Hearing none, I ask each commissioner who was present at that meeting to participate in the roll call. Otherwise, an abstain is appropriate.
Mr. Chairman,
So, sir?
so I'm confused. Does the annual plan hearing meeting, was that the meeting for half an hour that took place prior to the regular meeting, or am I thinking of the annual meeting?
The last annual plan meeting was the date that we got together to approve the plan. That day we did not have a regular board meeting.
Oh, okay.
Pardon me if I may. This is the meeting before the regular board meeting. The approval of the annual plan was on April the 8th, I believe, and those minutes were not approving at this meeting.
Yes.
This was the regular meeting.
This was to open the annual plan hearing.
Correct.
We're all in agreement on that and can proceed. So, any questions? Okay. Roll call for the April 30, 2021 meeting. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
You meant March 30th.
March. Yeah.
I do beg your pardon. March 30th, 2021.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. O'Donnell?
Abstain.
Mr. Moore?
Abstain.
And the chair votes aye. The motion passes. Now, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the regular board meeting held on March 30th, 2021?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, roll call to approve the March 30, 2021 minutes, regular meeting. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Abstain.
Mr. Moore?
Abstain.
And the chair votes aye. The motion passes. Item 4 on our agenda is presentations. We have 2 presenters this evening. First, we have Ms. Lisa Isham with the Housing Choice Voucher Program update. And upon completion of her presentation, we'll ask for any questions from board members. After Lisa, we'll hear from Mark Pfefferman with an update on the Information Technology Department. And again, as he concludes, we'll put any questions to Mark. So, Lisa, the floor is yours. The Zoom is yours.
Good evening. Rob is pulling up the presentation for you guys to view. I'll give a brief presentation via PowerPoint. After my PowerPoint presentation, I would like to show you a video of one of our inspectors conducting a remote video inspection before Mark completes his presentation. So as it pertains to the Housing Choice Voucher update, our software conversion has been completed. We are still ironing out some minor issues, such as reporting features that we feel that we need to complete the operations of the software. We are in the process of implementing our portals. So we have the Rent Cafe, which I'm sure Mark is planning to go into more detail about. The Rent Cafe is currently working for our property owners They're able to pull their inspection results. They're able to pull their HAP payment statements. We are ready to roll it out to our participants so that they can conduct recertifications and interim certifications via the portal. So it's another way of allowing our clients to interact with the agency. Staff is still presently telecommuting. It's going well. We've added the following resources to make things work out for staff. We have installed drop boxes in the parking lot where clients have 24-hour access to drop off any documentation that they're submitting to the agency. We've brought in contractors through with some of the CARES funding to scan documents to make sure that our staff that is working via telecommute has access to all the paperwork that our clients are submitting. We were conducting our briefings via a YouTube video posted on our website. We have now started inviting clients back into the office to conduct briefings in person in small numbers. So our last waitlist pool, we pulled 400 clients, and we scheduled in-person briefings with a max of 50 clients invited for each briefing. We are continuing with our remote inspections. Our inspectors are also in the field conducting inspections in units. Our lobby during this whole pandemic has remained open for customers with limited staff in the office daily. We are continuing to have our staff meetings via Zoom and Skype. So nothing has stopped for us. So our operations are ongoing. Our CMAP score, last year HUD gave all PHAs a waiver to carry over the score from 2019 for fiscal year end 20. So for 2020, we remained a high performer. We are preparing currently for our CMAP audit for 2021.
Lisa, I'm sorry if I wasn't listening. What are virtual briefings? What are the subjects of those?
So when the pandemic initially hit, we limited contact with staff in the office. So we posted a YouTube video of a briefing to our website, and clients were able to view that briefing prior to being issued a voucher at their own leisure just via the website. But we now are back to inviting clients back into the office for their briefings so we can issue the voucher the same day.
That they've had briefings on our policies such as housekeeping or?
Well, I'll go into that a little bit later.
Okay,
because
that's
we
fine.
have a new program called our Good Neighbor program.
But what the briefing is, Mr. Miles, the briefing explains the program to them and how it works, and like you said, the policies.
Okay.
It doesn't go into the housekeeping, but it's the policies and their rights is what the briefing is.
Okay. Thank you.
Their rights and the expectations of them.
Got it.
So since July through March, the Housing Choice Voucher Department has completed over 8,900 recertifications. We've conducted over 16,000 inspections. We've processed 892 unit changes. We've processed 497 new admission files. In addition to processing over 4,200 interim certifications. And interims are when clients report changes in either household composition or income.
And unit changes is
Or when
distinguished.
clients are transferring units, they're moving to another unit.
Okay. And new admissions are people new to the program.
Correct. They're being pulled off of the wait list.
Okay.
Next slide. So this slide shows how the HCB's budget authority has increased over the last 6 years. During the calendar year, HUD has requested CMHA to administer an additional 62 new HUD VASH vouchers. They've also requested that we administer 45 enforcement vouchers, and they awarded us 104 mainstream vouchers. As you can see below, the amounts that we've received and paid out for voucher assistance. Our projected budget for 21 is over $87 million.
Are those 62 new HUD VASH vouchers and others, are those new to Hamilton County, or is HUD asking us to take over vouchers that were managed in other silos, if you will?
These are new to Hamilton County.
Okay.
Now, the enforcement vouchers, that's when HUD had a previous multifamily contract with a property owner, and they were not able to maintain the property, or either they opt out providing affordable housing. So in order to protect the subsidy of the residents, they would ask CMHA, would you administer voucher assistance to these families? And so that's why they're called like enforcement vouchers.
Okay, so it's not additional 45 vouchers.
There are additional vouchers for CMHA, but it's no additional affordable housing for Hamilton County. It's just a switch in the program. Next slide. This slide shows our per unit costs. And when I say per unit cost, the average amount that we're paying out in housing payment assistance over the years. You can see the amount peaked in 2020. We can see that it has dropped a little for 21 as more businesses reopen and people are going back to work. Next slide. Over the years, CMHA has created several partnerships with agencies to provide affordable housing opportunities to underserved populations. And all partnerships equate to over $17 million annually in housing assistance funding being provided to service these agencies. This allows those agencies to utilize funding to provide meet the additional needs of their consumers. The chart on the next slide lists some of the agencies with the type of assistance provided by the HCB program. In July of 2021, new partnerships will begin with Cincinnati Public Schools and Cincinnati Union Bethel. Also in July 20 of this year, Strategies to End Homelessness and Lighthouse Youth Services voucher referral numbers will increase with the implementation of the new HCB administrative plan, thus increasing the dollar amounts dedicated to partnerships to provide affordable housing opportunities in Hamilton County. Next slide. And this may be a little bit hard for you guys to see, but in all, you can, the bottom number, we're providing over $16 million in housing assistance through these partner agencies. So you can see some of them, we are providing tenant-based assistance through an actual voucher. Some of the agencies will provide assistance through project-based contracts that the board has approved. And how I came up with the dollar amount, I took the average help amount times the number of referrals or the units that the agency has under contracts with us.
So I just want to make sure I point out to the board that you see what CMHA contributes to the homeless population between veterans and regular is over $10 million. If you look at Cincinnati Veterans Hospital, 3.1 million and $7.1 million to strategies in a greater behavioral health that we contribute. And this is a partnership that we came up with to offer to help in the homeless area in our community.
So what was this total 5 years ago? It was much smaller, wasn't it?
We didn't have this 5 years ago.
Right. Yeah. So no one can say that we're not looking for the need as it goes beyond the traditional CMHA client.
Correct. And when Lisa, goes over this next year with the addition of the Cincinnati Public School, and that partnership is with Cincinnati Public School, it's going to show what our contribution is to helping homeless youth that the school system identifies. That's a huge partnership with trying to help end homelessness in our community.
Now, these aren't kids who are aging out of the foster system.
Nope, this is totally different. These are kids that come to school and tell their teachers, I'm homeless. We don't know what to do.
Okay.
And they get a referral. The other partnership they referred to, Lisa, is More Wares.
United Way.
United Way. So it's a three-way partnership with CMHA, CPS, and United Way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Next
Maybe
slide.
get that story in the paper.
Exactly.
So, in addition to the tenant-based vouchers that the Housing Choice Voucher Program administers, we also administer assistance through mod rehab contracts. And on an annual basis, I do come forth and ask the board to approve the renewal of those contracts. CMHA has currently 48 mod units under 4 contracts. We have, however, been placed on notice by the owners of 2 of the mod contracts that they will be converting to RAD, project-based voucher assistance, in 2021, leaving only 2 contracts with 13 units in the mod program. Our project-based vouchers are used as a component of public housing agency's voucher program. CMHA and PHA can attach up to 20% of its voucher allocation or budget authority to PBV assistance. Under the project-based voucher program, CMHA enters into an assistance contract with an owner for specified units and for a specified term. So families that are assisted under a project-based voucher, the assistance is tied to those units. It's not tenant-based where they can take it and transfer or port out to other counties. The assistance is strictly tied to those units. After a year, successful completion of their first year term, they can request a tenant-based voucher. CMHA plans to publish a request for proposals within the next few weeks. We're working with the local VA. They would like to project-base some of the VASH vouchers that they have allocated. So that'll be coming before the board for approval. CMHA uses the conversion of the tenant-based vouchers to further accomplish the following specific goals: to meet the housing needs of special populations, to provide avenues for partnerships with the city of Cincinnati or Hamilton County to support the preservation of vital housing communities, to support projects which further revitalize neighborhoods and promote the deconcentration of poverty. And you see us doing this also through our RAD conversions and through some of the developments proposals that have come before you, such as the Scholar House. And I believe development is working on a senior development in over the Rhine. I believe it's Logan Street Apartments.
Correct.
So that'll be coming before you soon to award project-based vouchers. Next slide, please. Also under the umbrella of the Housing Choice Voucher Program, we have what we call our NED 2 vouchers, non-elderly disabled vouchers. And these are vouchers to assist non-elderly persons with disability currently residing in nursing homes or other healthcare institutions to transition back into the community. CMHA has a baseline of 100 NED 2 vouchers, and we partner with Ohio Job and Family Services on these vouchers. They refer the clients who are receiving Medicaid and who meet the other criteria for the eligibility criteria for the NED 2 to us, and we brief them. We determine the additional program eligibility, and then we issue the vouchers. We have 445 VASH vouchers, and when we say VASH, these are homeless VASH vouchers. So they support veterans that are homeless, and it doesn't have to be the veteran. It can be veteran families with a veteran that's in that family as well. We work with the local VA in the administration of these vouchers. They provide case management services and other resources that the veteran family will need to be successful in residing in housing. And of course, we provide the housing assistance payment.
What's the definition of a veteran's family?
Of the VASH?
Yes.
Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing Program.
I'm sorry. Is the spouse, children eligible? Does it extend to grandchildren? Does it extend to brothers and sisters of the veteran?
So it not only houses a single veteran, it will house a veteran family that includes one veteran that meets the criteria of a homeless vet.
Right,
So
but
that could be,
how are we defining family? Are we defining family as spouse? Are we defining family as children or siblings?
Right under there.
so HUD's definition of a family can be just a single person. It can be a husband and spouse with children. It can be a veteran and his grandmother. You know, they're a family unit.
Thank you.
So also under the Housing Choice Voucher umbrella are the mainstream vouchers. We have 104 mainstream vouchers that we were awarded by HUD. And these are also vouchers to assist non-elderly persons with disability. The eligible member does not have to be the head, spouse, or co-head, but must be at least 18 and no older than 61 and meets the Social Security Department's definition of disabled. So under the VASH program and the non-elderly program, under VASH, it's a veteran that's the head of the household. Under non-elderly for that disability, the person with the disability is the head of household. And under the mainstream program, it could be a household member that has the disability, but the whole family may be eligible for assistance. Next slide. So over the last few months, we've worked very hard to attract new landlords to the program, especially seeing what was happening with the eviction and the moratorium on evictions. We thought that was a great opportunity to try and attract some of the landlords who might not have thought about participating with our program, but we offered them incentives. And what we told them is, you know, you wouldn't be in this position if you were housing voucher holders, because if their income decreases, then the amount of housing payment assistance will increase because it's an income-based program. So some of the owners found that very attractive. We awarded $5,000 for owners that had never leased up with the program, that went under contract. We offered $600 for anyone that was pulled off of the waiting list that housed up between November and the end of January. We provided $700 for leasing to a special population, veterans, elderly, disabled. And then we offered an incentive for $1,200 for any owner that committed to a 12-month lease agreement. In all, we paid out over $600,000. You can see below, we've added 104 new units total. We housed 409 families with the incentives. 274 of those families had children. 130 families had a disabled household member. 29 of the families had an elderly household member. And 74 were housed as new admissions from the wait list.
I'm sorry, did you say how many new first-time program landlords came on board?
104.
104. So, I'm trying to figure out how we get to 733 plus thousand with 104 new landlords.
We had the other incentives going on as well. $600 were offered to those that house someone coming off of the waiting list initially.
Okay. Got it.
And then, yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Next slide, please. What we're also doing in the voucher program is starting a landlord engagement group. Cmha wants to ensure that we're providing the most efficient services to our property owners. So we're creating this landlord engagement group so that we can hear directly from and work together with property owners to bring about changes that will assist us in establishing more efficient processes within the rules and regulations governing the program. We're going to hold monthly meetings virtually, lasting about an hour to discuss specific topics each month. The groups will consist of a small number of property owners ranging from owning one unit to having maybe 300 units participating with the program.
So Lisa, since you've done this before, this is something new, or is this just a twist on what you used to do?
This is something new. Next slide, please. So this slide is some of the events that we have done in the past that some are new. The Fireside chat. It's an informal conversation with our landlord outreach coordinators and new landlord participants. It's geared towards recruiting new owners. They're available one Saturday each month to ask general questions about the program. The Good Neighbor program. Mr. Miles, you were talking about explaining the rules, housekeeping, all the things about being a good neighbor. That's what this program is developed for. So it's a voluntary program to educate Housing Choice Voucher participants in regards to daily household upkeep and other aspects of being a good neighbor. During each session, we cover topics such as organizing the home, making sure you don't interfere with the right to peaceful enjoyment of your neighbors, maintaining the house, your unit in a clean and safe manner. Right now we're educating our property owners because it's our hope that since we cannot make this program mandatory, that the property owners will find it as a good program, and they'll want to lease to residents that have only been through this program. So we can't make it mandatory, but they can say, hey, I'm not going to lease to you unless you've been through this program.
Wow, that's a rather eloquent solution to a lot of communication issues.
Yes.
I like that.
Right. So we figured we reach out to the property owners, get them interested, and have them make it as a requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other things that we're doing,
Lisa, will this be new as well?
Yes.
And so you don't have any feedback at this point? How many of our landlords would be willing to participate in this?
Well, we started having the landlord meetings this month, and our customer service manager, she told me that they were very positive. They were interested in the program. They thought it to be a good program, and they were going to, the ones that attended the first session said that they would have their voucher holders go through the program. Mm-hmm. And what we're doing to incentivize the voucher holders, we have a raffle, monthly raffle when they attend of a gift card. It's not a huge amount.
Yeah.
But it's really going for it to be a success. We want the owners to buy into it.
Yeah. Is this another opportunity for you to connect with the owners, the landlords, to incorporate the goals of this program into the lease in terms of?
Yeah, this is our effort of increasing our relationship with our landlord, with the good landlords, and then also getting their buy-in to helping with the integrity and the good name of the program overall, the Housing Choice Voucher program. Mm-hmm. So, when I first started, there were people coming to board meetings and meetings talking about CMHA, you need to control this, control that as far as the clients.
Right.
Our pushback was always, well, this is a partnership and you're the landlord, and so you have to manage your property. So this is really, all of these different approaches are ways to increase a better relationship with our landlords, and then get their buy-in to help with that. I'm not going to say without them knowing that they're helping, but really just getting their buy-in, and then organically they are helping with the integrity of the program and enforcing their lease with the tenants by us providing information for them. And I think, Ms. Mitchell, you're speaking of a few meetings that I think maybe you attended or maybe someone you know attended, And those meetings were landlord meetings and landlord education meetings.
Okay.
And trainings that we
Okay.
still have. But what these meetings are, we got together and we wanted to build upon our relationship with the landlord. And so we kind of created these approaches. And that last approach that Lisa talked about is a huge approach because a lot of landlords have been asking for that sort of committee. So instead of them getting together and developing something, we thought it'd be better we got together and then put something together to help with their buy-in.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
This is a huge step forward. This could be a solution to what has been a very heavy lift in terms of the issues that you allude to, Greg, of neighbors coming to CMHA and insisting that something be done, where the greatness of this approach is the landlord is learning that they have license to include a lot of details in the lease that HUD has approved, not for the housing authority to enforce, but it's okay for the landlord to insist on these things that are being covered in these chats and briefings. So, you know what? I think this could pay dividends like nothing before. Not that everything else isn't worth doing, but I'm very excited hearing about this, Lisa. Well done.
Yeah, you're correct because as Ms. Mitchell, you're aware of our CMHAUs where we educate and train the property owners on being good property owners and being proactive property owners. And what approach we've been doing is in connecting with the property owners, because a lot of times they say, when you tell them to enforce their lease, evict them. If you evict them, they're off of the program. It's, letting them know, we are property owners ourselves. The population that you're dealing with, we're dealing with as well, because we're the largest affordable housing landlord in Hamilton County. So some of the resources and tools that asset management currently uses, such as the maintenance charge schedule, their trash and litter guidelines, and some of the other forms that they have, I've been providing something similar to our landlords in hopes that they would start incorporating some of those into their lease agreement, to hold their tenants more accountable. And when they receive that information, the response is very positive. They didn't know that they could charge them for damages. They didn't know that they could charge them for maintenance items. They didn't know that they can incorporate trash and litter guidelines. So as we keep educating them and letting them know that they hold the power, I think it'll turn things around.
Yeah,
that's good. I like that. Them hold the power. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
because it's a win-win for the tenant and the landlord and us to the extent that we're involved, that everyone understands their role in this, and the landlord has a lease that's enforceable, as you say, collectible, because it addresses what might be issues that aren't typically spelled out in a lease. And it's a way of causing the tenant perhaps to begin working with the landlord if they're in a problem spot. And that's a good thing. I remember getting a call from a landlord who was relating a lot of tenant destructive behaviors of the children in the home. And this landlord was too generous, too well-meaning, and she was being taken advantage of. But you know, if through these gatherings, the landlord can come up with a lease that addresses these things and can be put in front of somebody in the first week of its occurrence rather than 6 weeks later, you know, to work out a repayment plan for damages to what you name it. This is big. This is big. And I can't anticipate in how many good ways it could be helpful.
Next slide, please. So looking forward, the Housing Choice Voucher Program, we're looking to purchase kiosks again as an additional resource for our clients, both voucher holders and property owners, to interact with the agency. We hope to increase the number of remote video inspections that we're doing. We've also, Mark, myself, and Marquita, we've met with the Hamilton County Public Library because our initial thought was possibly installing kiosks in some of their branches for our clients' use. But they came up with an even better idea. They're willing to, because they have so many computers via grants, they will set aside computers and provide staff to help our program participants in both the asset management, Touchstone, and Housing Choice Voucher Program, utilize those their computers to connect with our office. They have scanners. They're willing to assist our clients with scanning documents to the agency. They have copiers that they will not charge our clients a fee for making copies of documents. So they're just waiting for us, and I'm sure Mark's going to go into more about that. And then we'll be rolling that out soon. And they would like to do a really big media blitz around that partnership. We're looking forward to being able to conduct our online recertifications through the Rent Cafe. Looking forward to continued expansion of the project-based voucher program. As I stated before, we plan to publish an RFP within the next couple of months. We're going to be extending the program through continued RAD conversions and CMHA development opportunities. And we look forward to continued improvement and streamlining of our processes. Our goal being is if it comes in today, we process it today. So that's all I have. You guys have any questions? If not, we can
Very
go.
good.
Please.
I was saying very good.
Thank you.
Good program.
Well,
Yeah, I agree, Laverne. Pretty impressive progress.
Yeah,
Not,
really good.
as Greg and I were talking earlier today, I'm reminded of Commissioner Fortune's remark at a property opening. It's not your grandmother's CMHA anymore.
right.
As a compliment, as the greatest compliment.
Correct. Well, before we get into Mark's presentation, I believe Rob's going to show you the video of one of our inspectors conducting a remote inspection. And he's in his vehicle. He was actually scheduled across town on an inspection, and we wanted to video an inspection, a remote inspection, and this was the time and date that the property manager had. So he was able to actually complete his inspection and not leave and shoot across town. He was able to go ahead, sit in his vehicle, utilizing his laptop, and conduct the inspection virtually.
All right. Is this a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom?
2-bedroom.
Okay. We have another outlet there.
Yep.
That's good.
I need to show you the thermostat.
Yeah, and what is, this is always hard to read on.
72 heat. It's on 68. It's not on.
Okay, yeah, turn it on so that it kicks on for us. And then while we're there, I think they have their individual furnace units in those, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go
That's
over that.
the remote alarm lamp.
Let's go over to the furnace so that I can at least hear that kicking on. Oh, yeah.
It's on.
Yep,
You
I
can't
can.
hear it?
I can, yes. If you could
Oh.
back up for me, though, I need to take a look at it. Is it? Nope, that's electric. Okay. Excellent. Vented. Let me see the vent pipe up where it meets the wall. Goes to the ceiling. Okay, excellent. We're good.
Okay.
All right.
All right, yet another wall.
Another outlet.
Yep.
Excellent.
I already have the windows open here. There are 2 double windows.
Yep. Do me a favor, just give them a lift up and a close down. We just need to make sure that they're opening and closing properly. Did that close on its own or you closed it?
I closed it.
Okay. All right. Good.
I'm gonna open it back up though.
Yeah. Probably a little hot in there.
All right, another plug.
Another outlet.
I meant, yeah, outlet.
There we go.
Another outlet.
Okay.
Okay. Now we're going to the 2nd bedroom.
Sure. Let's go on in there.
Let me do the door. It's closed. It's open. Outlet.
Good. And do we have a light in that room as well?
Yep.
Let's turn that on and just make sure we're all good. Excellent. Okay. We'll move to the other walls. Outlet. That's good.
Go to the window.
Yeah, let's do that window while we're there. Perfect.
Outlet.
Good.
Outlet.
Good.
Closet door. Close this. Open. Where's this light switch at?
It's probably on the outside wall, I'd imagine.
Oh, nope, right here.
Inside. Okay. Good. Good, good, good.
Okay.
Thank you, Rob. So now I guess we'll move on to Mark's presentation.
All right. Can everyone see the slides on the on screen?
Yes.
Great. Good evening, commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to give you a quick update on the Information Technology Department. So last time we chatted, we We haven't really changed staff since then. There's 6 of us total, and 1 contract scanner, which that's been mentioned before. They digitize the paper that's coming in. I'll talk more about that in a minute. So staff, very little turnover. I don't think we've had any turnover in the 3 years I've been here, almost 3 years I've been here. So pretty stable staff. What do we support? We support the 200 plus employees at CMHA, and by extension, the nearly 20,000 families that my business counterparts support. We're business enablers. That's what we do. We try to make CMHA as easy to do business with as possible. We do that by providing network infrastructure, backup and recovery, all the devices, things like desktops, laptops, cell phones, etc., for the home office complex, as well as the 22 remote sites. We support 4 major software systems: Yardi Voyager, which I'll talk about in a little more detail. That's our enterprise platform that does pretty much everything for us here at CMHA. There's Yardi Portals, which is that internet presence to help give access to the Yardi Voyager system. Highland OnBase, talk a little bit more about that in a minute. That's our document imaging and workflow platform, so our enterprise content management platform. And then Office 365, that's how we get things like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, that's all served up from the cloud. There's a host of smaller systems and things that we support, things like all the RICO multifunction devices, aka copy machines, the WriteFax server. There's a lot of smaller systems, and then there's a couple systems they're really in sunset mode, things like Emphasis Elite, which I'm sure you've heard about, RealPage, some of these other systems, which we're still keeping a heartbeat on, but they're not in active use right now.
How long will we, excuse me, how long will we have Highland on base?
How long will we have it?
Yeah, is that something that Yardi will take over at some point?
I don't think so. Yardi is a great platform for resource management and managing the various programs. It's not really an enterprise content management platform. So that's really what OnBase is built for. So all those images that are digitized, we really want to pull them into OnBase for safekeeping. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the other things that OnBase is going to hopefully provide for us here in the next year. All right, I want to touch very briefly on 3 major initiatives that we've been working on. You've heard a lot about Yardi Voyager. That implementation has been a 3-year effort, and it's nearing full completion. So what's currently in place? Finance is completely on Yardi. Things like the general ledger, AP, AR are on Yardi and have been on it for quite some time. The procurement, business function, warehouse, purchase orders, vendor management's been on Yardi for quite some time as well. Housing choice voucher, Lisa mentioned, their wait lists are currently being managed in Yardi. Resident, landlord, all of that is, and units, et cetera, are all managed in Yardi along with their contracts. The affordable, RAD, and PHA property management, which things like wait lists, residents, and maintenance activities are also managed on Yardi currently. Work orders, both our work orders that we issue to our internal staff, as well as work orders that are going to vendors, are all managed through Yardi. And I'll talk a little bit more about how maybe that work order function will change in the future as we start rolling out some of these portals to the residents. I think I keep looking away because I've got you guys on my other screen here, so I apologize if it looks like I'm looking off into space. Virtual inspections, Lisa did a fantastic job covering that. I did want to also touch base that the PHA side, Marquita's group, is also starting to make a foray into virtual inspections. A little bit different approach, but basically the same kind of thing that Lisa demonstrated. PHA is going to kind of leverage as well.
What do our folks who are part of our maintenance team and are going into properties what device are they using to communicate work orders?
Okay.
To and from?
All of them have cell phones. smartphones, and the work orders are passed to them via their smartphone. So if you're assigned a work order, it goes to your smartphone. There is a special Yardi application that's on your smartphone, shows you your work orders, allows you to interact with them, close them, make notes, etc. All of that on that smartphone. Similar to what we had with Elite, I think it's a little more stable, and it's a little more feature rich than what the Elite platform was, and it seems to be a much more reliable than what Elite was. And then portals are web presence. So we've got vendor cafe for the AP vendors. We've had that up for quite some time. We've got, 300 plus vendors currently on vendor cafe. They can receive work orders, purchase orders. They can do their invoicing all through vendor cafe, which is a website for the AP type vendors. Rent cafe for landlords, and which Lisa mentioned a little bit ago. We've got, it's over 2,000 landlords currently on the platform. They can see their inspection results. They can see their HAP payments. They can see a lot of things on vendor cafe. Rent cafe for landlords. And then rent cafe for applicants. We've opened one wait list, which is the mainstream wait list for HCV, which is still open. Sorry, Rob. Hey, Rob, mute. Sorry. Rent cafe for applicants. So HCV is using that now for their mainstream vouchers.
So is there some way, even at this early point, to measure the calls that don't have to be taken because the question and answer is happening through these portals?
I think it's still a little too early. That is something where we're going to next. We do see, though, that there may be a couple departments that we won't need when we get fully functional, and what, as Mark is explaining, especially in the resident portal, because the residents are going to be able to interact with systems where now they make calls. So Mark and the group is almost there, and I'm going to say another 18 months we'll be able to see what that turned out to look like for us as far as department staffing and additional efficiency for residents.
Do we expect to continue the same tenant work order request protocol, dialing a telephone number, or is this portal going to serve as another vessel?
Let me touch on that. So for affordable, for PHA, when Rent Cafe is up and operational and rolled out, we have the ability to turn on them, have them the ability to submit maintenance requests right through the portal. So they have some issue, they can submit it through the portal. Still some business processes to work out. This is going to be pretty new for us to be able to do that. For example, do you want the folks to submit a maintenance request in the middle of the night for something that's a life safety type thing? Or do we want, so if we do, then someone's going to have to monitor that process to make sure that those life safeties are addressed immediately. Or is a life safety in the middle of the night something that you probably ought to pick up the phone for? So as we work through those business processes, because again, we've never had a platform quite like this before. So this is some business processes that we have to work through to make sure that we understand how best to employ that for the agency.
Very good.
But once those things are rolled out, we do see some huge efficiencies in things like online applications, online recertifications, where folks can submit their documents right through the website and get them to a knowledge worker here in the office that can then, do the certification, recertification, and only then reach out to the resident if they need additional information. And then lastly, kiosk. We I believe the board approved kiosk last week, or is it this week? Or this month? It's this month. Sorry, I don't want to steal Janelle's thunder. And the Cincinnati Public Libraries. I think there's huge benefit to the public libraries. They look at themselves as being trainers for folks that need help with computer skills. So for years they taught folks how to find a book in the library. Now they're teaching them how to find information online, and they're very willing to help us help our residents and our applicants navigate Yardi, navigate Rent Cafe, and get set up. So I think that's going to be a huge partnership for us and the public libraries, and by extension, our applicants and residents.
Hey, Mark,
we're asking more and more of the, it seems, of the on-site property managers. And do you see applications with this that will allow them to do more during the course of the day without having, in other words, without having to take more phone calls, which they may or may not be able to do?
Yeah, I think any time that we can help digitize and workflow some of this stuff, we're going to find efficiencies in those processes. Our processes may be very inefficient now because they're paper driven. They're very face-to-face type interactions. If we can streamline those processes, and then I don't want to speak out of turn, but there may be opportunities for reorganizing. Mr. Johnson mentioned that, maybe some departments change or go away, or not departments, but teams maybe change their focus where we can centralize some of these functions. It might free up the property managers from doing some of the administrative work that is critical, but it's another thing that the property manager has to do instead of manage the property. So there may be a lot of opportunities for that as we get the platforms in, get a lot smarter on them, and figure out what works best for our business processes.
Yeah, I agree with Mark, Mr. Miles, but the biggest thing that these operations or pieces are going to do for us is it's going to allow the resident to give us information 24 hours a day. And then it'll allow us to access it faster. So we'll be getting more information faster. So part of the manager's job or the office's job is going to speed up. And we've experienced some of that through the pandemic, through all of the things that we've been doing so far. So it's going to cause for training, retraining of our managers. I don't know that the phone call volume is going to slow down because, as you and I know, if I submit something to the manager at midnight tonight, I'm going to call them first thing in the morning, ask them, did they get it, and are you done yet? So once people get comfortable with going in and rechecking, because they'll be able to go in and see what the manager did. Once they get comfortable with that, then I'm going to say yes, because then they'll trust in the system. But until we get that transition, it's gonna be a bumpy ride, but we'll get there.
Yeah, that's okay.
I have a question here. Mark, do you know what percentage of our residents have either laptops or cell phones? And do we have, second part is, and do we have Wi-Fi generally available in our buildings?
We do not have Wi-Fi generally available in the buildings. We are through the Internet Infrastructure program are going to roll it out to Mariana Terrace, Horizon Hills, Ryan Lane, and Seti Coon. Seti Coon's in there. That will be some of the residents, help some of the residents. That's why I think that that relationship with the Cincinnati Public Library is so important. They can go someplace like the library, use those machines there. But to answer your question directly, I don't know how many have smartphones. Anything I've observed would be anecdotal, where I remember when HCV used to bring a lot of people in for their voucher issue. Lots of folks there had cell phones. I don't know, that, but that's just anecdotal, an observation. Lisa or Marquita, do you have any feel for that?
Well, I think the big answer is, or the big point, Mr. O'Donnell, is that's why we're making sure that we have access all over the county. And so by using the library system, they have libraries all over and close to all neighborhoods. Our additional, you'll see later in the board meeting, we'll be asking the board to approve some purchase of some kiosks. So the beauty of this is that the libraries are going to say, you can use our existing equipment, and then we're going to be looking for additional partnerships with the likes of Kroger's or Walmart to place additional kiosks. So then that way we'll make it accessible, because we know not every client has a smartphone, laptop, or even Wi-Fi. So this way we'll make it where it's accessible for everyone to do business with us as we move to the digital age.
So, is the plan to have a kiosk in every building then too?
No, we don't plan to have a kiosk in every building. That's going to be cost prohibitive for us, but we do know that 90% of our clients frequent a Kroger's or Walmart every month to either cash a check, do grocery shopping, or general shopping. And then we do know that 90% of our housing is located in close proximity to the library. Actually, there's more libraries closer to our sites than it would be to drive downtown to central office.
I forget the name of the program, but based on economic need, everyone is eligible for a cell phone these days. Are they eligible for a smartphone?
No, it's just the regular. That's the seniors that are eligible for just a communication, but it's not a smartphone.
So who is it who are setting up little tents in front of retail places like Kroger and elsewhere? That doesn't seem to be seniors who are doing business there. It seems to be some sort of subsidy, Greg. But anyway, I think we would be pleasantly surprised how many of our tenants do have smartphones. But to your point, Greg, rather than expect that they all do,
are we planning on a smartphone app for residents that do have smartphones?
I'm sorry, Mr. O'Donnell.
I said, are we planning to have a smartphone app to access these rent cafes for residents that do have smartphones?
So Yardi does not have an app per se for their for Rent Cafe. What they have done is designed it where it will live and play nice on a smart device, whether it be a tablet or a smartphone. It does behave properly. I don't know if you've tried to surf the websites before with a smartphone. Ones that aren't set up that way, it's really hard to decipher. Yardi's does render properly, and so they can interact with it on a smart device. Again, whether it be a smartphone or tablet, it adjusts its size and things to fit the smaller device.
I also think it's important to note that with moving virtual, families with children all have devices in the homes, either provided by the schools. And I know that we're just moving to a digital age. So I think that it is definitely important for us to consider ways to, with residents who may not have, and we can do that through our resident services who may not have access to technology, to sort of bridge those gaps. But on multiple fronts, and folks who interact with multiple systems, having access to a tablet, a computer is necessary. So I feel that this is directly in line with with other services. So not wanting to gloss over or discount the fact that some people may not have technology, but I believe this is in line and moving towards with lots of other systems that residents will be interacting with.
Yes. Okay. Second initiative I'd like to talk to you briefly about is on-base upgrade. I believe last year I talked about moving from version 13 to version 18. That's how we were a little bit behind. Well, EP3 is even the newer version past version 18. We successfully upgraded and went live in March of this year. The upgrade went extremely smoothly. We did have some folks that didn't get the new icon. We had some folks had some login issues, but generally all the images moved. Everything went very, very smoothly. Now, what that allows us to do is go to the next step in the engagement. And we talked about, about the remote worker and the remote worker. And Mr. Harris talked about the whole leveraging the new digital world that we're in. And we want to leverage the capabilities of this new platform to create some workflows to support that remote worker initiative, as well as business process improvements. We run on paper, lots and lots and lots of paper. What I'm proposing, and I've talked to Lisa and I've talked to Marquita both, let's move the scanning to the front part of the process. Right now we scan at the end of the process, and that is problematic, which I can go into later, but let's move the scanning to the front part of the process, digitize those paper documents coming in. That allows a knowledge worker, no matter where they are, as long as they can get connected to Yardi, which is on-base, as long as they get to on-base, they can do their work anywhere without having to have that big pile of paper with them. Improves security, improves their productivity, and it will make, it also improves quality. Right now, the quality of the scanned digital image, because it's happening after the fact, we may miss a page. We may have two pages stuck together, which we won't find for years later if we don't look at them right away. By digitizing it, working that packet, digitize right up front, you know it's good. If it's not good, you fix it right away. That then will allow us to not keep paper indefinitely. We're keeping paper documents indefinitely right now because we have a fear of throwing them away. Again, back to that quality comment I made.
Is legal keeping up with that goal?
Yes.
Good.
So there are some documents that we believe we're going to have to keep for a long period of time. And we're closely working with legal on our records retention and this idea of digitizing the paper as it comes in. And because this is directly supporting the remote worker initiative, we're planning to leverage the CARES Act funding to do that part of the project.
And our footprint for files could be reduced significantly.
Substantially.
In the future. I mean, it's real, if we're paying rent somewhere in the future.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to tour Fidelity Investments over in Covington. Their paper moves about 60 feet from the time it comes in till the time it's scanned, till the time it's temporarily held and then destroyed. And that complex over there is huge, and they get amazing amount of paper in from folks. So I know it can be done, and I want us to start moving in that direction.
And to your point, I've always heard that wherever you address a piece of mail to Fidelity, whatever state, whatever city, it goes through Hebron.
I think that's correct, yes.
Wrap your head around that. Talk about managing and and accessibility versus let me get that file and I'll call you back. Or that's a huge step forward.
I have been told they process as much mail as the main post office in Cincinnati at the Covington facility.
Yeah.
It's immense.
Yeah.
And then the last initiative I want to talk about quickly is remote worker. Last year in March, the whole world turned upside down. What we did was at Cmha IT, based on our business, working with our business counterparts, we implemented a comprehensive remote worker capability for nearly all employees in the agency. We went from very few people having the ability to work remotely to nearly the entire company, minus the maintenance workers, because really they got to work on site, so they can't work fully remote. We really wanted to address three critical areas: equipment, the access, and then virtual meetings. So equipment, we purchased more than 190 laptops, docking stations, monitors, carrying cases, all the stuff you see there. I think everybody in the company now has a cell phone, even some contractors. They were all acquired, configured, and issued to CMHA employees. We wanted people to understand this is our new way of doing business. So we went and retrieved the desktops off the desk and replaced them with docking stations. Your new work platform is your laptop. Take it home with you, bring it back. I see some folks smiling there, Mr. Moore. You're used to the remote worker thing, I'm sure. But in order for that to work, you got to have remote access. So we significantly beefed up our remote access capabilities. And it's really two platforms. One's called Citrix and the other's VPN. We're pushing most folks towards VPN. They're just slightly different ways of delivering the same capability, which is connect into the home office from a remote location. And then UC1 is an app that goes on your phone. And essentially what that does is gives you a unified communications platform. Your desk phone and your cell phone ring simultaneously when somebody calls you. Virtual meetings. We looked at Teams, we looked at Archidin, we looked at WebEx, and we looked at Zoom. And really, we've tried to push Zoom as the platform, the most cost-effective platform of choice for CMHA. Anybody can use Zoom for free. You just set up an account. If you want a little more sophisticated capabilities, i.e. meetings that go over 45 minutes or some other recording features, then we purchased a license for folks. And we purchased those licenses and got a discount by purchasing them for 3 years. Again, using the CARES Act funding for that. And then we also contracted with outside vendors to do to support our virtual Board of Commissioners meeting and other events. Many of you have attended the grand opening, Reno Days, et cetera. All these capabilities have come out here of late, and we're leveraging them pretty effectively, I think. So what's in the near future? We want to improve the call center platform. The call center, they leverage UC1, but they don't really have great reporting. They don't have things like abandonment rates and how many calls are serviced. So it's really hard to get good statistics from our call centers. And if we're going to this model where call center is a service, IT is a service, you got to have the ability to be able to effectively manage your call center, manage the calls, figure out if you need to staff up, staff down, see where there's issues. We can also go into things like skill-based routing. So if you consolidate all your call centers into one place, and as you train your call center associates to do other functions besides maybe just HCV, maybe they can do some other functions, then you can skill them up to allow them to take calls from other types of calls. And you can have a call center that's extremely efficient and very good for the agency because it's centralized and they're highly trained in call center operations. And again, the funding source for that, because it's a remote type initiative, we want to use the CARES Act funding for that. That's all I have, subject to your questions.
Well, these have been two super duper presentations, and last month as well. I think I'm reminded of Ed earlier in the meeting speaking to board members' fiduciary role, and this goes a long way to helping us understand what you folks are doing on a daily basis and why, and the tools you're creating to do it better. I don't want to speak for any other board members if there are other questions beyond that. Okay, no other questions? Well, we thank you sincerely for those great presentations, and again, last month's as well. I know a lot of work goes into them. The play of the remote inspection was interesting, and it's just incredible what that must do for the capability of getting the work done to the satisfaction and responsiveness that the landlords want. It's terrific stuff. Okay, so hearing no other questions, we'll move on to item 5 on our agenda, public comments, and we don't have any this month. So item 6 is discussion of secretary recommendations. 6A is the financial report. I'd like to ask that we consider resolutions 5523, 5524, and 5525 together. Are there any objections to that? Okay, hearing none, I'll read each resolution. We'll vote on all 3 resolutions at the conclusion. Resolution 5523, approving the bad debt write-offs for March 2021. Resolution 5524, to approve fiscal year 2021 March financial statements for the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority. And Resolution 5525, approving the fiscal year 2022 budget for the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority. Is there a motion to accept resolutions 5523, 4, and 5?
Motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question, I think for Rima about the write-offs. And it's basically about the amount. The number I saw was $86,000 roughly for the month. Is that right?
That is correct. It's $86,764 for the month.
So how does that compare to, say, the average month?
So right now, for through the 9 months ending March 31st, we're running on the average at about $28,500. In comparison to last year, we were running about $29,400. Our year-to-date, the 9-month balance so far is $256,000, and last year's 12-month balance was approximately $353,000. So that's kind of where we stand.
So this is a pretty significantly above average debt write-off this month. And what would you attribute that to? I did see some fairly high numbers on that chart. Is that there was a $10,000 write-off on there and a $7,000 one, I think. And what would account for that?
6,000 and
yeah.
So I think that Marquita Flowers is better able to answer that question on the specifics. So Marquita, would you like to?
Okay, thank you, Rima. Good evening. So what we're seeing are the results of COVID-19. We have individuals who during the moratorium didn't pay the rent, and now they're moving out or they're skipping. Also, we're clearing up some conversion data where we, from Yardi, and there were some accounts that we identified that needed to come before the board.
But what would account for a $10,000 write-off on a unit?
Mm-hmm. So that particular individual had a higher rent in comparison to some of the other ones that you've seen. Their rent was $875. So for each month that we weren't able to move forward because of the moratorium, that accumulated.
Wow. Okay.
So what recourse do we have, Marquita, with maybe something that the CARES Act is meant to gap fill, or do we just write that off with no expectation of it being reimbursed, or?
No. So what happens after the board approves the write-off is that these debts are sent to a collection agency to pursue. Also, we put it into the HUD system called EIV, where it alerts any housing authority subsidized landlord that this individual has left CMHA with the debt. So those are our recourses. And what we have found is that when individuals come back, and so before they can receive housing from us, again, they must pay the debt.
Mm-hmm. So if you owe $10,000, you can make a repayment plan of $100 a month, or how does that conversation go?
Mm-hmm. So as far as the repayment agreement, we allow the individual who owes us the money to just continue to pay as they can, and some are able to pay a steady flat amount, and then others a lesser amount. But I think the key to that is that whatever increment that they are paying, they must pay it off before they get housing with us.
Mm-hmm.
And then plus the collection agency establishes agreements as well.
And Rakita, and that the EIV system also speaks to others. So even they go to other subsidized units. Like I know that we've had that, I believe at TCP, like, you know, the tenant, we've rejected people's applications because they have balances with CMHA, even when they're not applying to a PPV unit or whatever. So it's it really is something that follows a person, you know, not just within CMHA, correct?
Exactly. So it's across the country.
Yeah.
All housing authorities have access to it, and they reference it.
Marquita, question about those higher balances. Are those tenants still in their units, or have they moved out or been evicted? I mean, what's the status of those?
Mm-hmm. So these are all individuals who have moved out, or like I said, we found that they've skipped.
Okay.
But none of them are in possession of the unit.
So this may be more of an accounting question, I guess, but how have we reserved against other large write-offs for the future? Do we have, do we have people in units who owe us large amounts that we expect to be written off?
So yes, we do have an allowance for doubtful accounts that we have established. And then as Marquita stated, the only time we come to the board on a monthly basis is on balances left after move out that we do, we're doing a actual write-off for, but we do carry an allowance.
How big is our liability here? I mean, what are we looking at over the next, say, 6 to 12 months?
So typically when we create our allowance, we look at the number historically to see, from previous years. Typically, we're running about around $300,000 allowance that we accumulate over the year, and then true up.
So that will be insufficient given the trend of the last running 12 months.
Yeah, starting with our new.
Well, let me. I mean, what we collect during the year goes against that as well. So. What we find also is that people want to come back in, as Marquita said, and there's agencies, and especially now, that will pay for those individuals to come back in. So we don't know what that will be until the end of the year, to see how many people we housed that came back in from previous years that owed us a balance as well. And then to your question, Mr. O'Donnell, do people that still live with us, do they have a balance? And some of those individuals do, and that is the repayment agreement that Marquita spoke about as well. So we will enter in a repayment agreement. Sometimes when we go to court, it goes through that way, or the resident will come in and agree to a repayment agreement to pay off the debt and keep up their rent as well. So it just varies from person to person on how that's done. But we do have some old debt. It's not bad debt until they move out, but old debt that residents are paying in addition to their rent. So sorry, Rima, go ahead. You can finish your accounting question. I just wanted to make sure that you got all of those questions were getting answered there.
No, you did an excellent job. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Do we track, I'm sure you do, rent receivables basically that are for rent that's past due? And how long, what's our the length of our receivables?
Sure. So this is an extraordinary year. We have an aging. We watch our aging, our accounts receivable aging. Right. Obviously it goes from 0 to 30, your typical 30 to 60, 60 to 90, and over 120. So just this year, as far as with the pandemic and the moratorium, our receivables have climbed. Typically, we're below 3%. This year, we went as high as 25, 26%. And now, through the application of certain dollars and cents that are coming through agencies that are helping our residents, it's actually down significantly. Right now, well, as compared to the 25, 26%, we're down to 18.7% at this point in time.
That reminds me of a restaurant worker in Kentucky who was telling me that she simply quit paying her rent because her income was down. She devoted what income she had to keeping the utilities on, but she's applied at the urging of friends to, I'm not sure if it's a job and family services counterpart agency or a federal agency, to get rent money for previous months because someone didn't have the income. Is that what you mean by agencies, Rima?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so the money that's coming in to the city is going to Job and Family Services. They've created a portal online for applicants to apply. And we're working with Community Action Agency to get residents access to CARES Act funds or home relief funds, rental assistance in general. And we've been doing pretty well with that. What we'll do is send out actually the applications directly to the residents' doors. Managers will assist. Managers have even taken applications and just started knocking on doors for our residents that have been delinquent. We use one call just in case there's a barrier as far as literacy, and another way to get the word out to the residents. So we're aggressively trying to connect the residents to the CARES Act funds that are in the community.
Yeah. Well, that answers a lot of questions. So our property managers are knocking on doors after 30 days. They're not waiting 90 days to be in touch with that tenant who's in arrears.
We're handing information out, but I want to be sure, and I think Rima said, and I'm sorry, Marquita, to cut you off. Rima said it. This is a different year because of the pandemic. So we were hands off for quite a few months because we had to be, and there was no relief funds there. Now, when the relief funds and the stimulus packages came through, then we devised of mailing of applications and assisting tenants and creating partnerships with the Talbot House, the Free Store Food Bank, CAA, JFS, on how can we get our clients in the system first to save their housing and evictions. So we worked that part of it to create those partnerships, and we've collected, I mean, upward close to $1 million of back rent, but and utilities, but there's still a large number of our residents that we've taken them given them the applications, they just won't fill them out because the moratorium is still out. So we still have those challenges, and those write-offs potentially, if they skip out, will still be coming before the board because they left us and we couldn't do anything because of the moratorium. But we are doing everything we can to collect the money. And even right now, they're paying future rent. So they'll pay 3 months of future rent for clients as well. And so we're trying to set them up to do that as well. But
Yeah.
We've been pulling our hair out with it and how to not to get ahead of it. Now, I would say last year, a year and a half ago, yeah, we wouldn't be waiting. After their initial, we're knocking on the door. We're trying to say, hey, what's going on? And that's how we've been able to keep our bad debt down the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the pandemic, it's kind of gone the other way, and we're going to go through a bad year this year, to right size the ship, so to speak.
Is there anything in the CARES Act that is intending to address PHAs that are put through a hardship because of this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you would say attending to us, but obviously we do operating subsidy in public housing. And if you collect less rent, your operating subsidy goes up. So we've turned those numbers in, and we've seen where the ask is a little greater than it was maybe the last couple of years because of that. Actually, we've been really good at collecting rent. So our subsidy after proration has been down because we've been doing a good job of collecting rent. So that in that sense, yes, there is no other direct subsidy that's been coming to us as far as the public housing program.
Mm-hmm.
But that's probably the biggest benefit that we probably are going to experience through this whole process.
You're expecting that HUD's position will be favorable to this subject.
Well, the operating subsidy will go up as long as, but depending on proration. But in HUD's eyes, they've put out the stimulus money, so we are able to collect the stimulus money. I think the wild card across the country, and my counterparts are saying the same thing, the dollars are there. Hamilton County in general has tons of money to give out to help families. The families have to fill out the applications. And surprisingly enough, there's a lot of people saying, I'll wait to see what happens, unfortunately.
What do they think is to their advantage for not doing anything?
I have if I had that crystal ball, I'll tell you, I'll probably sell it. I have no clue. And Marquita and I have had tons of conversations of why would somebody do this. And as Marquita is saying, what we're finding, because we are starting to be a little more aggressive than we were, because now we're asking the question, are you not paying your rent because of something that happened to you during the pandemic? And we're finding people are up and leaving in the middle of the night with balances, and we're finding units. So that, all of that mix is what's happening with our bad debt write-off. It's not going to get any better, I'm going to say, between now and the next 12 months, because we're going to be finding units when the moratorium stops. there's going to be people, saying, hey, what can I do? And they're going to find themselves in a situation. So, unfortunately, I think it's going to take a full 12 months for us to get back to where we were as far as our bad debt write-off.
At the risk of sounding like I'm answering my own question, I'm recalling what the Kentucky restaurant worker shared with me. She said, I am purposely not paying my landlord because why should I pay him if the government is going to pay him? I can use that money to do other things. Is that part of perhaps what our tenants?
That's part of it, but I think the worker that you talk to, the worker that you talk to, their intention is to fill out the application to collect the money. Absolutely. What we're dealing with is an intentional, I'm not going to fill out the application because I don't think I have to right now.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Because there's a moratorium, or there has been. Yeah. It's hardship all the way around.
I think that we can concentrate on all of the things that we can do in terms of as an organization to recover the money, but I don't know if we can unpack the psychology of the decisions that people make, because people come from very complex lives and have different mechanisms for making their decisions. But what we can control really is the mechanisms that we have, right? So we have their record. We know we have repeat folks. We know that we have recovery in subsidies from development, and we know that we can lead residents to the rental subsidies. I would also say that this is just, as Greg said, kind of like a universal experience amongst folks who operate in subsidies. So at TCB, we're having this exact same issue in Boston, Chicago, Cincinnati, DC, Baltimore. And so, I just think that it's a larger system sort of byproduct of that.
Yeah, I don't doubt the truth of that. Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, then roll call on the three resolutions. Ms. Mitchell. That was an aye?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Moore.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Item 6B is request for approval to solicit bids for the following items. We don't have any bids this month. Item 6C is resolutions to award contract renewals. Resolution 5526, authorizing the CEO of Cmha to sign a one-year contract extension option for contract 2019-1010 for electrical services with Sensi Electrical Solutions, LLC, Seco Electric Company, Incorporated, and True Construction Services, LLC, on an as-needed basis not to exceed $100,000 per contractor annually for a maximum 5-year contract and not to exceed budgeted amount, paid for by operational funds, administrative fees, management services funds, and development funds.
Motion.
Thank you. A second? Thank you. Any questions? All right, roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Resolution 5527, authorizing the CEO of Cmha authority to sign a one-year contract extension option for contract 2020-1003 for vacancy prep unit turnover, make ready, with A1 Quality Home Improvement and Roofing LLC, Absolute Magic Remodeling LLC, Brundage Services LLC, Chase Construction and Inspection Group LLC, Koger Enterprise LLC, Colossal Janitorial LLC, Crosty Renovation Services LLC, Pro Contracting Homes and More, LLC, ECJ Janitorial, LLC, Diamond Professional Contractors, LLC, Tiffany R. Davis, doing business as Dominion Real Estate Consulting, Finesse Services, LLC, A Fist of Contractors, LLC, Bruce Gray, doing businesses From the Ground Up Renovations, GJT Construction Incorporated, Heroes Forever Developments, LLC, Howard Edwards Contractors, LLC, Terry Jarvis, BBAJ Companies, Just Right Construction and Lawn Care Service, Mike Keith, DBA Mike's Painting, Pell Con Painting and Cleaning, LLC, Pleasant Contracting Services, LLC, Priority Services of Ohio, LLC, Charles Sadowhite, DBA Sadowhite Painting and Cleaning, the Stone Street Group, LLC, Thomas Rehabbing, LLC, Trust Us Transportation, DBA Trust Us Maintenance and Janitorial, Urban Environmental Services, LLC, and Excel Building Maintenance, LLC, on an as-needed basis not to exceed $350,000 annually per contractor for a maximum 3-year contracts and not to exceed the budgeted amount paid for by operational funds. Is there a motion? Thank you. Second. Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, a roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Now, Resolution 5528, authorizing the CEO of Cmha to sign a 1-year contract extension option for contract 2020-1005 for maintenance, repair, and operating supplies with Winstell Controls Incorporated, Cincinnati Color Company Incorporated, Sherwin-Williams Company, Ferguson Enterprises LLC, and Progress Supply Incorporated on an as-needed basis not to exceed $150,000 per contractor annually for a maximum 5-year contract and not to exceed the budgeted amount paid for by operational funds. Is there a motion to accept?
Motion.
Thank you. A
Second.
second. Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Item 6D is adopt a resolution to award the following construction contracts. We don't have any new construction contracts this month over $100,000 per our resolution 5442 approved August 25th of 2020. The CEO has authorization to sign contracts in an amount not to exceed $100,000. In March, there were 11 contracts at $100,000 or below, with total expenses of $197,000. Item 6C is adopt a resolution general, resolution 5529, authorizing the incorporation of both Riverview San Marco LLC and Riverview San Marco Development Corporation and associated employer identification numbers to facilitate the rental assistance demonstration conversions, rehabilitations of Riverview and San Marco.
Motion.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Any questions?
One quick question. The one of these is the holding company, right? And the other one is for the investor. Is that correct? Do I have that right or not?
We structure the day-to-day activities of the site are managed by the development corp, and then the LLC is for ownership purposes, and we reach agreements with the investor through a partnership agreement. So we bring the investor in, they're the 99% owner, and then the development corp will have a 1% ownership but have the day-to-day control of the project.
But at the end end of the day, CMHA continues to own the property.
Yes, yes. The investor technically owns 99%, but that's just for tax purposes. That's why the LLC is created.
Technically, okay.
So wait a minute. I want to make sure I understand this. So
Yeah, take your time, Ed.
yeah, sorry. I know it's getting late, so I don't.
No. I mean that sincerely.
So the investor group is going to own 99% of the of which one of these? The Riverview San Marco LLC.
The investor owns 99% because they get the tax benefits for the site. So all the tax benefits.
Figure out which one they're going to own and which one is the development. Is it the?
It'll be of the LLC.
Okay.
He's asking about which properties, Gary.
No, actually, it was actually.
No,
we've got an LLC here and a corporation, right?
Yeah.
So the corporation is going to be owned by CMHA?
Yes, the Development Corp will be owned and operated by CMHA, and they manage, they're the 1%, technically the 1% owner that manages the day-to-day operations of the site. So anything happens in the field, when building the building or whatever it might be, they make all decisions, and that's CMHA entirely. Is that your question? And then the investor comes in and they technically own 99% of the project, but that's only for tax purposes. They just want the tax benefits from holding ownership.
I'm sorry, I'm not being clear. I'm trying to understand which one of these is held by the investors at 99% and which one is held by CMHA. Which one is owned 100% by CMHA?
The Development Corp.
So it's the Riverview San Marco Development Corp is 100% owned by CMHA. And the Riverview San Marco LLC is 99% owned by the investors.
There'll be a partnership agreement between the LLC and the investor group, and that partnership is dictated by what's called the operating agreement. So it becomes a limited partnership agreement that's dictated by that operating agreement. So all the terms and how the property is managed are dictated by that partnership agreement, and if that makes sense, and the operating agreement the investor brings in.
Okay.
And Gary, isn't this is, for context, right? This is a typical structure.
It's 100% typical of how we do all our structures for all our RAD agreements or our RAD deal. So you saw the same thing with Park Eden, with Pinecrest, with Sutterview.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call on the resolution. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Moore.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, the resolution passes. Now resolution 5530, authorizing the incorporation of Horizon Hills LLC, Associated Employer Identification Number to facilitate the rental assistance demonstration, conversions, and rehabilitations of Horizon Hills. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you. And a second, thank you. Any questions?
Yes. So why isn't there a development corporation here?
Because this is not a tax credit property. So we're not using 4% tax credits on this deal. This is just this. In fact, there's no debt on this in this deal.
Okay. Thank you.
It gets a little complicated.
Yeah.
And it's all new, right? It's all RAD rules.
Correct. These are both RAD deals. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Moore.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Now, resolution 5531, authorizing the CEO of CMHA to negotiate and enter into a contract for solicitation 2021-1002 Work order services with Chase Construction and Development Group, LLC, Colossal Janitorial, LLC, Ultimate Professionals, LLC, Crosby Renovation Services, LLC, Bruce Gray, DBA from the Group Up Renovations, Trust Us Transportation, LLC, DBA Trust Us Maintenance and Janitorial, Thomas Rehabbing, LLC, the Stone Creek Group, LLC, A1 Quality Home Improvement and Roofing, LLC, GLT Renovations, LLC, Howard Edwards Contractors, LLC, Diamond Professional Contractors, LLC, August Cleaning Services, LLC, Thompson Renovations and Janitorial, LLC, Somebody Gotta Do It, LLC, Fancy Structure Construction, LLC, GB's Property Maintenance and Rehabilitation, LLC, Touch of Perfection Painting, LLC, Finance Services, LLC, and DCJ Janitorial, LLC, in a not-to-exceed amount of $200,000 annually per contractor for a maximum 3-year contract or the board-approved budget funded by operational funds. Is there a motion? Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, a roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Resolution 5532, authorizing the CEO of CMHA to negotiate and enter into a contract for solicitation 2021-1004, junk removal services with a Fist of Contractors, LLC, Trust Us Transportation, LLC, DBA Trust Us Maintenance and Janitorial, Swept Away Property Cleanouts, LLC, Fancy Structure Construction, LLC, the Stone Street Group, LLC, Somebody Gotta Do It, LLC, Thomas Rehabbing, LLC, Rumpke of Ohio Incorporated, Diamond Professional Contractors, LLC, DCJ Janitorial, LLC, and Arel Lindsay, DBA Kingdom Contracting Services, in a not-to-exceed amount of $200,000 annually per contractor for a maximum 5-year contract or the board-approved budget funded by operational funds. Is there a motion to accept? Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Resolution 5533, authorizing the CEO of CMHA to negotiate and enter into a contract for solicitation 2021-4003. Choice Neighborhoods Master Planner with Lord Eck Sargent, a Katera Company, PLLC, in a not-to-exceed amount of $130,000 for a maximum 3-year contract or the board-approved budget funded by Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant Funds. Is there a motion to accept?
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Resolution 5534, authorizing the CEO of CMHA to negotiate and enter into a contract for solicitation 2021-6003. Storage Area Network with SH1 International Corp. in a not-to-exceed amount of $380,000 for a maximum 5-year contract or the board-approved budget, funded by Management Services Funds. Is there a motion to accept?
Motion.
Thank you. A second. Thank you. Any questions?
Question about this for Mark, I guess, is this cloud service basically where everything is stored in a remote drive?
It's actually on-site storage.
It is on site?
Yeah, there's two. There is a backup site and a primary site. We're still working on geographic dispersion, but there are two devices. So We'll separate them at least on the campus. And then the second one, we're going to try to move to a further out offsite. But this is on-premise storage.
Okay. And is there an archive system for this too? Is it archived somewhere?
It's an archive somewhere. There would be a secondary device that would be backing up what the primary. So it would go to the primary and then back up to a secondary site.
Okay.
And we have software in addition to this. This is hardware and software, but we have backup software that takes snapshots periodically throughout the day, and those are protected. So in the event that we have, heaven forbid, a ransomware attack where it would attack the primary, we would have backups, every hour or however frequently we set it up that we could restore back to where we were an hour or 2 hours ago. Was that what you were asking about archiving?
I'm a little confused. You have a primary which will have 100% of all of the data stored on it, correct?
Yes.
And then the secondary unit, is that a backup or is that a live active storage?
It is a backup. It is a backup of the primary.
Okay.
So we'll have 100+% of what is in the primary.
Right.
So it'll be snapping off copies of live periodically, or a primary periodically. So that's where the archiving idea will be.
And that's a series of computer drives, I take it. It's not a permanent storage. It's not a permanent archive.
It's not a tape backup or anything like that.
Right. Okay.
It is a online disk, spinning disk, although they're not spinning disk anymore. Yeah, it is a computer drives backup. That's a good way to describe it.
Okay. Did you look into using a cloud service as opposed to having like Amazon's service, for example, as opposed to having it on site, or is that?
Yeah, we've looked at cloud storage a couple times, both in a previous life and since I've been here at the agency, and it's just not cost effective for us right now.
Okay.
Amazon's a good example. Amazon is kind of use at your own risk also. They don't put a lot of guarantees on you being able to get your data back, which still surprises me. But so we've taken ownership of our own destiny by keeping it here on site. I do want to remote that second device more than just across the campus. I'd really like to move it to, one of our other housing areas or even to another housing agency even. I've explored that idea with some folks in Akron and Columbus as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like disaster recovery? Is that your disaster recovery space?
That would be that exactly.
DR? Yeah. Okay.
Disaster recovery.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember when we were considering Yardi, when you brought it before the board. I think you were on board at that time, Mark. It was anticipated that we could save significantly by going this cloud storage route, as Ed is alluding. But you're answering my question that if it's not as good a solution as having our own site and a redundant site, then that's the world we live in.
So if I could, just the slight difference between the Yardi implementation and what we're doing here. Yardi built out all the infrastructure for us. So all the application and all the data is hosted at Yardi. So we're renting space from Yardi. They can do that a little more cost effectively for scale. For this, it's some of our local. It's just our local storage, so our file shares, our on base. It's not as cost effective for that as it is what Yardi could do with their economies of scale with all of their customers using their cloud offering. So for them, it's more than storage. That's why it's a more cost effective solution for a Yardi implementation, for example.
So we are enjoying the added value of the Yardi purchase to that extent.
Absolutely. So yeah, so they're cloud-based, Office 365. So window, our email.
Yeah.
We do have a local email server, but most of the email stored in the cloud. So we are taking advantage of cloud where it makes sense.
Yeah, and the previous operating system, whatever we call that, forgive my ignorance, didn't give us that capability to store in the cloud.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Well, any other questions, Ed or Reggie or anyone else?
I'm sitting here thinking about the possibility, what the probability is that both of these systems could go down at the same time, and what would our, how would we handle that?
We would be having a really bad day that day.
Yeah.
These systems have a lot of redundancy built into them. I'm not saying it's not beyond the realm of possibility, but there would have to be more than 2 failures. There would have to be multiple failures occur on both devices.
Mm-hmm.
And the odds of that are pretty small.
Power backup for both of them, both systems?
I'm sorry?
Do we have electric backup?
Yeah, we have power supplies, UPS power supplies that give us a few minutes, and it allows them to shut down gracefully. So one of the bad things about servers and storage is if somebody just goes up and rips the plug out of the wall and they don't go down gracefully,
right?
You can get a lot of data corruption, et cetera. But if you have UPSs on them that can see that it's, there's a problem, you have 20 or 30 minutes for that system to gracefully shut itself down.
Well, what I'm getting at is, what if there's a general power outage that goes on for a few days? Electricity to the downtown area of Cincinnati is lost for a couple of days.
Our office would be essentially shut down unless we were to get a generator set up and be able to apply power to the facility. We could look at some ideas about moving to, co-locate someplace else, like Cincinnati Bell Technology Services, for example, has kind of a data center solution. When we looked at it, it was pretty expensive a year and a half ago. But there are some other options that we can certainly look at.
Would to this subject, would it be more expensive to have the second site in Columbus because it's less likely that they would be suffering a power outage that the Cincinnati region would be? Would that cost more to go to Columbus as opposed to setting it up in Anderson Township?
The thing I'm trying to leverage with some of the other housing authorities is they have the same problem I do.
Yeah.
They have to somehow get a backup site somewhere, whether, for disaster.
Right.
So the idea that we were going down and we were pursuing until COVID hit was, I'll put my device in your data center. You put your device in my data center. Yeah. We'll establish a connection between your primary and your backup that's here locally. So then the chances of all of us having, power problems is pretty small.
Mm-hmm.
In the event that we would have a severe outage, the next step of that would be figure out, can I stand up my secondary device in Columbus? Can I move all my connections there? Can I tell the internet that my websites are now there in Columbus? So it's a little more involved than just moving the device there, but it's certainly something that by putting a backup device in Columbus or Akron gives us that ability to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the next, it's kind of the next stage in our maturation process.
What do you do to prevent a ransom attack?
Oh, wow. One, we have anti-malware, we have antivirus. We keep that up to date. We've got, the market leaders in those platforms installed on all the devices, laptops, desktops, etc. We have firewalls that are industry leaders to try to prevent it from even coming in. We try to educate folks on, malware and what not to click on. We get a lot of emails a week. Hey, this looks suspicious. Can you check it out for me? So there are a lot of people who are doing that. So education is probably, the human is the weakest link in all this. So we do that. We also have the desktops and laptops locked down pretty tight. And what I mean by that is you can't just install stuff. Even clicking on a link that would try to deliver some malware to your device, it would have trouble installing because the devices are so locked down. No one has privileges to install software on their device. So we've taken a lot of steps. The other thing that we've also looked at is some of our counterparts who have had malware attacks and ransomware attacks, and the way that the backup software we have works, it's isolated from that ransomware attack. So the ransomware can find all the stuff on your primary, for example. It can't get to those backups on the backup device. So you stop the ransomware attack, you clean that off, and then you restore from a good backup. So we've put defense in depth, trying to prevent that. Will we ever prevent it? All the prevailing experts will tell you it's not if you get attacked, it's when you get attacked. So we've taken as many steps as we can. And I think one of the things that we want to boost now that COVID's starting to get on the back, we're getting on the backside of COVID, is last year we were really pushing out some fake malware from I had purchased a platform that allows us to put out fake emails and trying to get people to click on an email, fill in their credentials in a controlled test, obviously. And then it would provide them education. So we got through 3 of those last year. It kind of fell off the radar for a while with COVID, but I want to resurrect that and keep educating folks. These malware attacks get more and more and more sophisticated every year, every day. So education, I think, is a big, big piece of it.
It's wonderful that a big part of your presentation was, and Lisa's was dedicated to the opportunities of digitizing. If we were to be attacked, does that shut everybody down? Or can you turn certain aspects on while you're under attack?
Yeah, it depends.
I'm really ignorant about all.
Yeah, it depends on the attack. It really depends on the attack. Again, these attacks are getting more and more sophisticated. Some of them are very crude, brute force, but some of them are pretty sophisticated. And as long as we keep putting defenses in depth, then I'm hopeful that we could stop a malware attack or a ransomware attack, remove it from our primary, restore from a good backup, and be back up in business quickly. And by quickly, I mean 10 to 16 hours back in business.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah, it takes a little time to sort out what has happened. Also, so you're under attack. Some of them are obvious. They put the skull and crossbones on your screen, and it's pretty obvious what the problem is. Mm-hmm. Some of them not so much. Probably the scariest ones are things called advanced persistent attack, where they're in there.
As you guys can see, Mark is very, very. Mark could talk to you about this all night about it, but
no, I trust that we are in very good hands.
Yeah, he could tell us. He's got us pretty well protected. For an agency our size and what we're trying to protect, he's really got us on the right track here.
Awesome.
Big time.
I hope we don't get attacked tonight. That all that.
That 16-hour objective is dependent upon the redundant system being available to you. Is that a
Yes.
correct statement?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Thank you for indulging all my questions on that resolution, Mark. There are a few things that could happen to the agency that could be more catastrophic. So it's good to know that you're on top of it and everybody at the agency is aware of the risks and you're constantly reminding them. Resolution 5535, authorizing the CEO of Cmha to negotiate and enter into a contract for solicitation 2021-7003 kiosks with Dynatouch Corporation and a not to exceed amount of $290,000 for a maximum 5-year contract or the board approved budget funded by CARES Act funds, $145,000 by CARES Act funds for asset management and $145,000 by CARES Act funds for housing choice vouchers. Is there a motion? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Resolution 5536, authorizing the CEO of Cmha to execute documents to secure a grant in the amount of $300,000 from the Greater Cincinnati Foundation for the construction of Bennett Point in the city of Cincinnati, Hamilton County, Ohio. Is there a motion to accept?
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions?
I just want to say, just a comment, I'm really excited about this project. I think that this is incredible. So that's it.
Yeah, wonderful. All right. Roll call. Ms. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and the resolution passes. You're right, Reggie. You know, our team at Cmha did an incredible thing to what seems like breaking through a place that is becoming a resource to us for all the right reasons. So it shouldn't be ignored for the very significant step that it is. And thank you, Greg. All right. So if there's no other business to come before the board, may I have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting?
Motion.
Thank you. Thank you. And any questions or comments before we adjourn?
I just have one comment. Gary Jump, can you set up a Zoom call about 5 minutes from now with me, Jerry, Tom, Lisa, Thomas, and Rima? We have a matter we need to discuss tonight. So then that way we can all, Rima, Lisa, Thomas, okay. Tom, and Jerry.
Okay.
And then I just want to say thank you to the board for the approvals tonight. There again, it just shows your support as we try to move through these difficult times and as we continue to move through these difficult projects. So I know I really appreciate it. It allows us to continue to do, the business at hand. So I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, Greg.
Yep.
Welcome.
I just want to say I really appreciate the great job you guys are doing, really. I mean, I know this is a really hard time, and I think you deserve a lot of credit for handling it as well as you are. So thank you.
Yeah, here. And on top of all that, the efforts you're making and demystifying for us as board members what you're going through on a daily basis. It doesn't go unnoticed. All right, so roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mr. Moore.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The motion passes. The regular board meeting is adjourned.
All right, good night.
Except,
Night.
except
you.
for,
Good evening.
Good evening, guys.
yeah,
Night.
but
Thank
our,
you.
our executives continue to work. Have a great night. Thank you.
All right.